Hi, folks. It's Steve, and I am here with financial coach Angie Carlson. Hello, Angie.
Hello, Steve.
How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic is good. I'll take some of that fantastic, and I'll say I'm fantastic too.
Wonderful.
You and I are involved in a really interesting study, and it is a branch of your financial coaching, which I like. I love coaches, as you know, because you get into two distinct areas that many financial advisors do not venture in. One is the
Mhm,
mindset of people when they make financial decisions, and two
mhm,
is the dynamics of the relationship they're in with somebody else who has to help them make decisions.
mhm.
And in my experience, I have found all too often that people get stuck in one or both of those areas. Either their head's not on straight,
Mhm.
and or they have not mastered the dynamics of their spouse or their business partner, and people end up making no decision or a bad decision. So I'm really grateful for the approach you take. And I was really excited when we came across the idea of having a series of programs to explore the various stages that a couple experiences in their life together, and taking a good look at the different dynamics and mindset that operates in each stage. So I really am looking forward to this second seminar, talking about career. Last time we talked about the newlywed stage, and you gave us some really interesting insights into the dynamics and mindset of a couple at that stage. So let's now talk about career. What are some of the most important takeaways somebody is supposed to have when they're trying to get a grasp on the dynamics and mindset of a couple when they're in the career stage?
So the biggest thing with the dynamics of the mindset for the career stage is, especially if you're married, to come at things from the perspective of when your spouse brings something up, that if your marriage is loving and healthy, they're bringing up something because it's in the best interest of you as a couple. It's not from the perspective of trying to nag. It's not from the perspective of trying to get their way. It's more of a collaborative process of being like, okay, we're here in our relationship. We're struggling with XYZ. What are some solutions that we can bring to the table to help with that? And then if they're struggling to come up with solutions that work for them, then that would be the point to reach out and involve another party, because sometimes when we're in our circumstance, we're busy with jobs, we might have kids, we might have other things going on that just feels like our days go like that. And sometimes it just takes someone helping just shift us in a little bit of a different area to really see some things differently.
A lot of self-awareness is involved there. What are some of the unique findings that a couple will have when they try to become self-aware in the career stage? How is that unique for them?
So the way that things are unique in the career stage is they're starting to like feel some things maybe they haven't felt before. So as they're stepping into the career, maybe they're having feelings of, oh, I went into this career because I was told this degree field would make a lot of money. Mom and dad told me to, so on and so forth. So maybe they've made some financial decisions. Maybe they're still carrying that student loan debt and they're sitting here going, wow, my passion is with helping whales in the ocean, and I'm sitting here in this office in the Midwest because my student loans say I need to do this. And so they're starting to feel the pull and the conflict internally of, I know I'm meant to do more, but I've made some choices that are now preventing me from being able to do that. And how do I start cleaning up those choices so I can step into the path that I want to step into?
So already at the career stage, people are feeling a little bit of dissatisfaction with their lives. Um,
Not all of them, some of them. Yeah.
okay. And so how does that interfere with their financial decision making?
So, how it interferes with their financial decision making is sometimes people come to me and they feel like their money is making all their decisions. So, if they have consumer debt that's half their household income, they are like, oh, I have to stay at this high paying job. I can't go anywhere else. Or, ooh, this job pays 50 cents more an hour. I should go get that because that's just that little extra money coming in. And so instead of them really controlling what they want to do, they're looking at money and making the decisions through the lens of the finances.
So give us an idea of what a remedy is for that situation.
So what a remedy is for that situation is looking at, okay, what's going on, and do you even realize that you're doing that? Because that pattern can be something that's really hard to see. And if you're doing it, you might be experiencing just things like, I'm always looking for the next best thing. I believe my solution is always making more money, because those are seen as the steps that, well, if I have this problem going on, I can go make more money. They see that as a solution that they can do, which makes complete sense. But if you're already in the situation where you feel like things are tight financially, and now all of a sudden you get that little wiggle room and you're sitting here going, well, maybe I need to upgrade my car, maybe I need something else here. We haven't necessarily built the habits to go along with using that additional income to go towards our longer term goals. But we don't necessarily see it either, because we're seeing our long term goals happen because, okay, maybe we have an income goal. Let's go after that. And then you're also struggling too, because if we're making more money and maybe you have, little kids at home in the career stage, ooh, do I make more money? Do I spend time with my kids? And so there's just some unique challenges there with, where do I want to spend my time? And sometimes the money is deciding where we should spend our time instead of us deciding where we're going to spend our time. And then what I hate to see is people looking back, 10, 15 years later and being like, wow, I wish I would have spent more time, maybe spending more time with the kids instead of living at the office for 12 hours a day.
So what kind of process does somebody have to go through to kind of take charge of that inner drive to get attached to the money, and how does somebody wean themselves off of making money their boss? What has to take place with them?
That is a hard one. So what has to take place with them is they just have got to be just exhausted and just frustrated and ready to change, because maybe they've been making these steps for a couple times in their career at this point, and they're just like, okay, I've made this move 2 or 3 times and it's still not fulfilling something inside me. And so now you're kind of questioning and becoming more frustrated, because you were under the assumption that changing your career, making more money would be a solution. And so you have thought you've been implementing the solution, and that solution is not working at best and ineffective at worst. And so now you're even more confused, which is now adding to the frustration. There's some embarrassment there. And it's really just, is it worth still feeling the frustration and the embarrassment as I go through my career? Or is it worth really finding someone to help me address what's really going on so we can fix it and then go into our next stage with like, okay, I've got a sense of what's going on. I have more clarity on what I want, so that we can proceed down a path where we are more in charge than what we feel today.
So you're describing like an experience close to like hitting rock bottom to a certain point, where they can't take any more of how they're running their lives. So their body's kind of crying out for a change.
Yeah, not only is their body crying out, their spouse at home could be crying out too. Maybe, because maybe things aren't going well with the money. Things may probably more likely are not going well at home, because if you're stressed about money, that puts stress on your relationship. And it's also just wondering, you might be starting to have thoughts of, what if the I do that we said is turning into what if I can't?
So there's like a lack of confidence problem.
Hmm.
That creates a lot of strain on a marriage. So does this mean that unfortunately at this career stage, that's when people start considering divorce and separation?
I mean, it's something that crosses the mind of a lot of people. I mean, I was in the career stage, and I hate to confess this, but it crossed my mind at a point, just to be like, I feel like I've done everything I can do. I'm doing everything I think I can do, but I haven't tried doing it on my own again. I haven't. So, it's kind of at that point, it's just so hard to see that there might be another way out, that you kind of focus more on, okay, what do I think I can do? And you just get a lot of options, and you're just like, I'm not sure if any of these options are good. And it makes sense, because we've have our experiences. We've only seen what we've seen. And to have that other person that can come alongside and possibly help you see things from a different angle and be like, oh, I never thought of it, never thought of going down this direction or talking for help, or maybe I didn't even think paying off my debt was possible. And now we've kind of changed how we're looking at it. And then, oh, now all of a sudden we have all these other potential solutions that come to mind.
You're describing something that's pretty hard for a spouse to do, because on the one hand,
Hmm.
you have one spouse going through a tough time, losing
Hmm.
confidence, getting fed up, probably taking out on the spouse, the kid, the dogs type of thing. And
Hmm.
yet that spouse who's kind of bearing the brunt of
Hmm.
what the other spouse is going through, you're describing, kind of has to rise above that and
Hmm.
encourage and support the person that's having a hard time. That's
Yeah.
a unique skill set for people that
Yeah.
have that.
And it's hard for either party to put words to it because they're not sure what's going on. And if you're at a home where there's frustration and financial stress, the last thing you want to do is say the wrong thing and now add a fight on top of all of this. And so that's where it can really help to have a third person come in and kind of walk you through it, to be like, okay, you were raised with your experiences, so was your spouse. Now, you are not going to understand the ins and outs of everything that happened behind your spouse's house, closed doors growing up. But so like your spouse might say something that's like, okay, my family was bad with money, but you have no idea what's bad with money. Did they have credit card debt? Was there financial infidelity? Did they save money and blow it? I mean, there's so many, like, that saying I'm bad with money just encompasses so many things. So if one spouse is saying that and then expecting the other one to accurately interpret that, that doesn't happen, because they're interpreting it based on their experience. And if one says I'm bad with money is credit card debt, and the ones that says I'm bad with money is financial infidelity, now the one spouse is starting to think, well, maybe my spouse isn't showing me all the bills, and the other spouse is thinking, well, I told my wife about the credit card debt and everything's fine.
So you're talking about a coach acting as kind of a marriage mediator?
Not necessarily say a marriage mediator, but just more of bringing to the surface, like, what's really going on with your money, and what are we really trying to say? Because and I'm just as guilty as Steve, but sometimes my spouse can say something to me 10 times, I don't get it. And then Steve could say the same sentence to me and I'll get it immediately. And my spouse is just like, I've been trying to tell you this for years. Why are you just now getting it when it comes out the mouth of somebody else? I mean, anyone married can probably relate to the statement. And sometimes you just need someone else to say it because you just hear it differently. The tone of voice is different, the perspective's different. And that's okay. That's very normal.
Oh, I get that. So to get those additional points of view, who else is available? Like, who else would you guide your clients to get additional insights and additional perspectives besides yourself? What other people are professionals? Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, I am not licensed, so all of that I refer all that out. So, for life insurance, Steve gets all my referrals. If, I talk to somebody, I am not licensed in insurance, but if they tell me they make six figures and they have life insurance of 50,000, I know that that's not a good thing. They need to have a conversation with Steve where he's licensed and can go all of that. I do the same thing with financial advisors. If someone has kids and they come to me and they say they don't have a will, that needs to go to an attorney. There's trust implications. Maybe it's an older couple and they're trying to figure out their social security. They need to talk to an expert on that. So there's a lot of things that I do are kind of the foundational, and I might be able to see some gaps. I just may not have the licensing required or that level of knowledge needed. So that's why I have a vast referral network to send people out to for that, because it is important information for them to have as part of their short and long-term planning.
So do you remain as kind of like the quarterback of that team of referrals?
Yeah, I guess I would say I'm the quarterback. I always try to position myself where the clients are making the decisions, because my job is to guide them to decisions. It's never to tell them what to do. It's to help them come up with the solutions that they want to implement, because when they make the choices of the options, the odds of it happening go up exponentially.
Very good. Since we are talking about the career stage and of a couple's relationship, and we're talking about dynamics, Do you typically find that the parents of the children that are in the career
Mhm.
stage play a certain role at this point?
It really depends on the parent and it depends on the business. So was it has it been a family-owned business? Is the child in a mass corporation with a W-2? Sometimes there's guilt from parents, especially if they were raising kids and they didn't have a lot of income and now they have a lot of income to try to go back and give the child everything they wish they could have given them but couldn't. And then that wreaks havoc on their finances as well. So I mean, it really just depends on the situation they grew up in and what they experienced.
Um, are there certain don'ts? Are there certain tactics or moves that parents should avoid when their children or adult children are in the career stage?
I would say just avoid supporting the adult children because the children need their own feet. And someday something is going to happen to you. And then on top of losing you, your children may not then have the skills to handle the money either, especially if you're leaving an inheritance. If you leave a child with money skills, $1 million inheritance, the legacy is going to live on very differently than if you hand a child $1 million that you've been paying their bills and supporting them and walking them through and telling them what to do because they're going to get this $1 million and it's woohoo party time. And that's probably not what you want for your legacy. I mean, you get to decide, but not equipping your children and, and allowing them to equip future generations with the money skills required would make it really hard to maintain your legacy.
All true, and we'll certainly talk about when we get to the next stage
Mhm.
of the relationship with a couple in our next segment. You've dealt with couples of different ages and stages, and are you able to say that the couples that are in the career stage these days are any different from a number of years back? Do you see any changes in couples these days that are in the career stage from the prior generation?
I think anyone today, everyone just has more knowledge than what they did 20 years ago. I mean, oh my goodness, with the internet, like 30 years ago, you had a problem with a budget, you were like going to the library and trying to check out a book. Today, you just open a Google browser or chat GPT and ask your question. And so the amount of knowledge that you have is more, but I would also say at times that knowledge that we have gets us into the stage of there's so much of it. Where do we even start with it? What do we know is going to work for us? And so I would say that we have more information today. I would also say that we probably are less likely to take action on any of it because 30 years ago, you went to the library and checked out a book on budgeting. You would just sit down and do it because that was the only thing you looked at. Where now you could get 200 responses from Google and just be like, okay, I guess I'll stay where I am. So, I mean, it's kind of the blessing and the curse.
So does that mean that you, as their financial coach, have to pay more specific attention on making them more self-aware about how this is all bear on their situation?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely work on personalizing the plan and aligning their vision, and also like making more detail to the high level goals. So, for example, a couple may have a high level goal if they want to save for retirement or get out of debt. Great. Most couples would agree on that. Where they start to disagree is, oh, we're overspending, and now we have to decide what we want to cut to, or decide if we want to make more money. And one spouse may say, I want to make more money, and the other one's like, I'm ready to cut everything that isn't essential. That's when the disagreements happen. It's not because of their goal. It's not because their high level goal is bad. It's the how are we going to get there with what we want to do that's not working because maybe, you know, one spouse wants to still take vacations and do some things because they have the kids at home and want to enjoy the time. And the other one's going, I want to get out of this job I don't like. So let me just sacrifice and get it done so I can make changes. And once again, neither perspective is wrong and neither one's bad. They just don't line up very well together. And of course, that's going to be a source of tension. And when they both bring up those perspectives, they both have the they both have in mind, their family. They're not saying this from a place of spite. They're saying this because they're like, we see this as the best solution. And there's nothing wrong with that, except we don't have any agreement. So it's how do we bring those visions and high level goals into a plan that both agree on and they both want to work on, to help get them there, because as long as they disagree on these details, their high level goal is not going to happen.
Right. I get that. Okay, let's wrap it up this way. Um, let's suppose you have a couple that you're coaching that are in the newlywed stage, stage number one of their relationship. And we all know that soon they'll be heading into the next stage, the career stage, which is our focus today. What kind of advice would you give them to basically say, look, if you keep these things in mind, you're going to have a much easier time when you get into that career stage? What are a few pointers they should know?
I would keep in mind that sometimes that things can change. Like the goals that were important to us 3 years ago may not be the goals that are important to us today. And that's okay. The plan can change. Just because you lock in a plan in a newlywed stage does not say you have to be doing the plan exactly how you laid it out at 60. So where's the flexibility for the plan? And then we just learn more and mature more as we go through each stage of life. So how do we bring what we've learned and how we've matured to benefit our journey and allow us to maybe accomplish our goals faster than what we thought we could when we were newlyweds? I mean, I have a 15-year financial plan. It looks like we're going to get it done in less than 6. Fantastic. That's great. And it's just keeping the mind open to that, being like, yep, we have a plan. We know where we want to go. And we have to realize life is not perfect. I can't tell you when your next car repair is going to be, but I can promise you you're going to have one. I can't tell you your next major house repair if you own a house, but I can promise you there's something that's probably going to brew in the background or happening. If you have a child, they're going to get sick at some point. Now, we know these events are here, but because we can't put the day on the calendar, like Thanksgiving, that they're going to happen, people just don't think about it. So how do we build a plan knowing that, okay, we're going to have bumps on the way, and we also want to make sure those bumps allow us to keep progressing forward?
Well said, Angie. You are a good coach, and you've given us some very good insights on the good, the bad, and the ugly of this stage, the career stage, and the relationship of a couple. And I want to thank you for that. And as we continue to talk, I'm so impressed, and I so appreciate the experience you have and your ability to extract lessons to share. I think our audience is privileged to hear from you and to have you teach us. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Steve. I appreciate you having me.
Okay. See you soon.
All right. Bye.